We're nearing that time of year when many folks plan Halloween events, and since many parts of the world are still not back to hosting full in-person events because of the pandemic, a lot of people are making videos. A common question that I get here at the Poly Music Library is people looking for background music to use in videos. There are some places that you can find music online, but many of them cost money. The cool thing about Halloween-sounding music, though, is that you don't necessarily have to be an experienced musician to make a scary soundtrack for yourself. If you're putting your video together on a computer, you probably already have some recording software that you can use. And if you have access to some common instruments, like a keyboard or a guitar, or even just a microphone, it's pretty easy to make a haunted soundscape of your own. Here are a few tips that you can try, while having some fun and learning some new things in the process. Keyboard instruments. On a keyboard instrument, the keys that are close to each other will sound dissonant when played at the same time. If you choose a sound that sustains a fair amount, like an organ or a wind instrument sound, you can keep these sustaining for scary effects. Playing even more than 2 notes at a time will give you clusters of haunting sounds. Similar kinds of scary-sounding clusters can be made with short noises instead of sustained notes too. These are more common in ominous kinds of soundtracks with orchestral stringed instruments, like the violin. Choose a violin sound and make some rhythmic stabs, playing multiple notes that are close together. We've grown accustomed to sounds that swoop up and down unpredictably in pitch, or that have unusually wide vibrato, as being sort of spooky. The theremin is an instrument that really excels in these kinds of sounds. Well, there are a few ways you can get sounds like this. Your keyboard might have a pitch bend wheel. Usually these are set to defaults of a step, or 2 semitones, up and down, but sometimes you can change the settings to make it go up and down a whole octave. Just play a note and get that shaking, and you'll get some scary sounds. And right next to that pitch bend wheel is possibly a modulation wheel that might add some haunted sounds when you adjust it upward too. Try adding this to those tone clusters and see what you get. Related to this, a lot of electronic musical instruments make sounds that are frequently heard in horror movies or science fiction soundtracks. Just using those sounds alone can help you establish an eerie musical setting, even playing more normal music. Consider trying out some different, less natural sounds to see if you can find some special treats. Some keyboards might have some useful sound effects too, like wind sounds or thunder. Stringed instruments. On a stringed instrument like a guitar, or even something like a ukulele in a pinch, you can get sounds like this too. You'll want to use a slide instead of fretting notes to get these sounds, and move the slide around a lot. Just let the note that you've picked or plucked keep sustaining, while you move it around with the slide. If you don't have an official metal or glass kind of slide, you can use all kinds of household items in a pinch. A can, a butter knife, an envelope opener, a marker, those kinds of things. While you're using that stringed instrument, out-of-tune sounds can be scary too. Try intentionally making the strings a little out of tune and then strumming it, or playing a few strings together at a time. This can get you disturbing sounds that are a little like those cluster chords that we were playing on keyboard instruments. With the recording software you're using, you can add additional audio tracks to your initial recording, a process called overdubbing. When you're writing music, various kinds of musical contrasts make your music interesting, and extreme contrasts can make your music more scary. Consider contrasts like very high notes with very low notes, or very fast notes over very slowly moving notes. Maybe a very quiet part that has very loud passages that interject, or even one part that has a steady rhythm while another intentionally stumbles across that main rhythm in and out of time. Effects. That recording software that you're using probably gives you the ability to add some effects to what you've recorded. Some of these effects can be used to make scary sounds even scarier. Adding reverb, for example, will make it sound like you're recording in a big spooky house or a haunted cavern. Adding delay or echo can further accentuate that effect. Sometimes adding distortion will add to the uncanny aspect of your sound. And then there are some particularly weird effects, like ring modulators, that will make your voice sound quite frightening. Environmental sounds. If you're using a microphone, sometimes you don't even need an instrument to make a scary soundscape using effects. Some common household items, like maybe your refrigerator, a washing machine or dryer, or a boiling water kettle, can sound kind of scary if you record them, turn up the volume, and add some reverb and delay. Or if you're lucky enough, you might record a thunderstorm or a windstorm of your own. Most of all, have fun as you experiment. Even though these are fairly simple approaches, they incorporate some of the basic building blocks of music that all musicians, songwriters, and composers use in their own music. As you learn more, there are of course even more subtle and sophisticated techniques that you can add to your toolbox, but hopefully these are enough to get you started. And whenever you want to learn more, stop by the Poly Music Library, where we have tons of books to help point you in all sorts of musical directions. Happy musical haunting!